Hey guys, in this video we are going to work on two slides. The main one, which is this one, it is auto slide, and the other one it will be a pop-up slide on the map. And here we can also zoom. You can zoom any image of these, and you can manually swap the images. It is working on desktop and on mobile phones as well. And you can zoom in any point on the image. And you can also from here navigate using these navigation icons. And let's check the other one on the map. Let's go to Vietnam, for example. And let's check this room. This is the small one. It is a pop-up slide. It is autoplay as well. And you can swap manually. It is a swappable, and as well from these pagination icons. And when we click, we can see the main page of the room with the main slide and the information of the room. So let's get started. Let's go to our components and create a new component in the rooms folder. Let's call it room.js. And let's start building our single page for the room. We are going to use Dialog component from Material UI to include our slider or the carousel inside it. Let's import this dialog from Material UI. And let's add the props here. It will be full screen. And open, we need here a state. Let's create it inside our global context. Let's add here room. The default value is null. And let's create action to update this global state inside our reducer. Let's add it here. Case update room. We will retain the same main state, and we will update the room to be the payload inside our action. So let's save and go back to continue building our component. Let's grab this state from our state in the global context and the dispatcher to close this dialog using our hook use value. Let's import it from our global context provider. And let's use the room here. We are going to pass it to Boolean function. So if it is null, it will be false, and if there is an object, it will be true. And on close, we are going to create function handle close. Let's create it here. We're just going to dispatch to update the room using null, so that will close our dialog. So type update room and the payload is null. And the transition component, we are going to create this component. We are going to slide our dialog from bottom to up. So let's create this function. We need to pass the reference. So we are going to use this forward ref. We need this from React to pass the reference to the child, which is the slide component. It receives two parameters, props and reference. And we will retain our slide component. So our dialog will slide to top or to up. The direction is up, and we are going to pass the props, the default props and the reference to this child. Now we are going to build the app bar, which will include our title and close button. This is the app bar with the title and close button. Let's make it positioned relative because we need it to be aware of our container content. We are going to add padding top to our content to push them down, not to go underneath this app bar. Let's now put inside the toolbar. And now let's add our title inside typography. The title is a prop in the room.title. And let's add the prop to our typography. Variant H6. That means the style of this typography is H6. And the component we need it to be H3 because it is more important. And let's give it margin from left 2, flex 1 to expand to fill the whole app bar, and to push the X icon to the end of the bar. Now let's add our closing icon. Let's import close icon from material icons. And let's give it color inherit. That means it is white. On a click, we are going to use handle close. So it will be the same. It will set the room to null. Now let's save and go to our app component to include this component. Let's add it here. Let's save and go to our rooms component. Here, when we click on this image of the list, we will set our room to the room in this loop. Let's import the dispatch from global context first. And let's dispatch the action update room. And the payload, it will be the room, this room, inside our loop when we looped through our filtered rooms array. So let's pass the room here, and this will set our room in the global context. Let's save and check. Let's go to rooms page and try to open this. Here it is. This is the title and this is the closing icon. The dialog slides from bottom to up. And we can close it by the closing icon or pressing on escape from the keyboard. Let's go back and add our slider. Let's add here container. And let's give it padding top 5 to push our content away from the app bar. We need for our slider new package. Let's install it. The package we are going to use is a Swiper. Let's import the component from Swapper React. We're going to need the main component Swapper and the SwiperSlide. And we need to import a couple of modules from the main package Swapper. First package is navigation and Autoplay, EffectCoverflow, and lazy and zoom. And let's import the styling for all of these modules or components. The main style is a Swapper /CSS. And let's copy it 4 times. One for navigation and one for EffectCoverflow and lazy, and the last one for zoom. And let's create custom one that we are going to add our styles inside it. Let's call it swapper.css, and let's update our class swapper. We're going to give it background gray and height to fit our content. And let's update the wrapper. We're going to align the items to be in the center. And let's update the style for our image with 100%, max height 400 pixels, and object fit cover to avoid the image distortion. Let's go back to our component and let's import it here. And let's start building our swapper component. We are going to use a swapper component here. And let's add our modules here inside an array. Navigation for the navigation icons, and autoplay, EffectCoverflow, lazy, and zoom. And let's add the props here. Center the slides and slides per view 2. And we are going to use a grab cursor to give the user sign that it is swappable. And we will add navigation prop. Autoplay is true. And lazy and zoom as well. And now let's configure our effect. The effect is coverflow. Coverflow effect is an object. Rotate 50 degrees and stretch 0, depth 100, modifier 1. And we are going to use slide shadows. Now let's loop through our room images. We are going to receive the URL of the image and we will retain SwiperSlide. Let's give it key because it is loop. Key, let's make it the URL. And let's add here div container for the zoom. Class name swapper zoom container. And inside it our image. Source is the URL. And the alternative text is room. And let's save and check. Here is our slider and it is working, it is autoplay. And let's try to check the zoom. We can zoom in by double click on the image. And we can swap the image to the right or to the left. And here you can zoom from any point on the image. And the navigation icons are working as well. Let's go back and add the avatar of the user. We are going to add this icon with this tooltip. Let's add it here. We are going to use tooltip from Material UI. Title is the username, room.uname. And in case there is no username, we are going to use empty text. And let's add here the avatar of the user. Source is room.uname. And let's add some styling here. We are going to position this avatar to be absolute from bottom 8 pixels and from left to the same. And we are going to give it the index 2 to make it on top of the slider. And let's save and check. Here's the avatar of the user. It is working correctly. Now we are going to add these information of the room. We are going to include them in stack from Material UI. This stack is a flex. It is by default column direction. And let's give it padding from all sides 3. And the space between the component inside this stack, it will be 2. Let's create the first row for the price and the ratings. Direction row. And we are going to give it some styling. Justify content space between to push the 2 components apart to the edges. And flex wrap, we are going to make it wrap. This is for small screens like mobiles. So if there is no space, one of the components will go down. Now let's add the first column. We are going to use box from Material UI. This is for the price. And let's add for the title typography. We are going to call it price per night. Variant H6. And the component span. And let's add another typography for the price. We will check the price if it equals 0. We are going to show this sentence, please stay. Otherwise, we are going to show the price beside this $sign. And let's copy this column for our ratings. Let's update the label or the title. And we are going to call it ratings. And let's replace this typography using rating component from Material UI. Let's give it some props. Name room ratings. And default value 3.5. Precision, we are going to make it half star. On the empty star, we are going to use star border icon from Material UI. And let's save and check. Here's our row. Here's the price and the ratings. But as you can see, it is not aligned with the label. Let's go and use the flex to align it correctly. We will add here some styling, display flex, and align items to the center. Let's save and check again. Now they are aligned correctly. Now we are going to add the second row. Let's copy the whole row here, the whole stack, and paste it here. Let's update the label. The first one will be place name, and the second one the address. We only have here the room longitude and the latitude, but we need the real address and the place name. In this case, we are going to use the reverse geocoding using Mapbox. Let's first create state for that. place and set place. We are going to give it default value of null. And let's use effect. This use effect will depend on the global state room. If there is room, we are going to create URL. This URL from Mapbox will change the longitude and latitude into real address. So let's pass here room.longitude and comma room.latitude .json, and let's pass it our Mapbox access token. Let's bring it from our environment variable map_token, and let's use fetch function. Pass it the URL, and after the promise is resolved, we will receive the response and change it to JSON object. Then we will receive the object as data parameter, and we will assign this object into our state place using our function setPlace. We are going to extract the first item inside the features array. This item contains the place name and the address. Now let's update this typography. Let's replace this with a place.text. This contains the place name. And let's copy it and replace this rating. And replace the text with place_name. This contains the address. And let's add the last row for details or the description of the room. Let's copy this and replace it here. And copy this as well. Replace label with details. And here it will be room.description. And let's save and check. This is our room with the information, but here there's no place name or address. There's some mistake. Let's check our use effect. Here the JSON is function. We need to invoke it by 2 parentheses. Now let's save and check again. Now here's our address and the place name. And the details, we added it in a separate row because it's supposed to be long text. We've completed this single page with the main slider. Now let's work on this small pop-up slider. Let's add a new component for that. We are going to add it in the map folder beside the cluster map component. Let's call it Popup room. And let's start building this component. We are going to use card from Material UI. And let's give it max width 400. And let's add here image list item because we need to add 2 bars. This one here and the one down. And let's add here display block instead of the default one inline block. And let's add the first bar. We are going to give it background linear gradient from top to bottom. First one, the opacity is 70% in the beginning of this bar. and we are going to decrease it gradually to 0.3 when the height is 70%, and when we hit 100% of the height we are going to make it fully transparent. And let's give it the index 2 to be on top of the slider. Title, we need here to pass prop. We are going to pass this state from our main cluster map component. Let's extract the properties of this object. Title of the room, description, price, and the images from this object. And let's bring the dispatcher from the global context using our hook use value. Here let's check the price. If it is 0, we are going to show free stay. Otherwise we are going to show the price with $sign. And let's give the position to be top because the default is bottom. And let's add the other bar. Title is the title of the room. And the subtitle, it will be part of the description. Description.substring, 30 characters from the beginning plus these dots. And the z-index is 2. Now let's add our slider using the swiper component. And let's import the other components, SwiperSlide. And let's import the modules we need from the main package Swiper. First module is Pagination for the dots, Autoplay, and Lazy. And let's import the styling, Swiper CSS. Let's copy it twice, one for Pagination and one for Lazy. And let's go and continue building our slider. Let's add the modules inside an array, Autoplay, Pagination, and Lazy. And let's add the props. Autoplay is true. If it is not assigned to anything, the default is true. Lazy and Pagination, let's assign it an object. Clickable, true. And let's add here style. This is according to the documentation. This is the variables in the CSS of a swiper. You can update them using this way. This is to update the color of the pagination. We are going to give it white color with opacity 0.8. And let's update the color when it is inactive. It's also white color but with different opacity. Let's copy it and change color to opacity. This is according to the documentation. We are going to make it 0.5. This is when it is not active, and 0.8 when it is active. And let's loop through the images of the room. We will receive the URL and we will retain the SwiperSlide. Key is the URL. And let's include here box from Material UI. This box will play the same role of the image. Component is image. Source is the URL. Alternative text is room. And let's add our style here. Height 255 pixels. Display block. Overflow hidden. And width 100%. The cursor, we are going to make it pointer because we are going to click on this image to open the main page. and the object fit is covered to avoid the image distortion. On a click on this image, we are going to open the single page of the room. We're going to use the dispatcher to dispatch the action update room. Type update room. On the payload, it will be the same information in our prop, Popup info. And let's save this component and go to our main cluster map. Let's first create the state for the Popup information. Popup info and set Popup info. Default value is null. And when we click on the avatar of the user on the map, we are going to assign this state using set Popup info to the properties inside the cluster.properties. Here's our cluster. And we added these properties. It is the properties of our room we received from the server. So let's add the properties here. And let's check if there is already properties inside this object Popup info. That means there is room. We will open Popup component from React-Map-GL. Let's import it here. And let's pass it some props. Longitude is the one inside the Popup info. Popup info.lng. And the latitude the same. Popup info.lat. And max width is auto. Close on a click is false. We don't need to close it when you click outside this pop-up. We need only to close it using the X icon, and focus after open false as well, because we don't want it to move the focus directly to our X icon. And on close, we are going to set the pop-up info to null. And let's add our component here, Popup room, and pass it the state. Let's import it first. And let's pass the object Popup info here. Now let's save and check. Let's go to the map. And let's check one of the rooms. Let's click on this. Here is our pop-up with the slider. But here we can't see our pagination icons or bullets. And these paddings, we need to remove them and make our X icon bigger. So let's go to cluster CSS. It's included already in our component. So let's just add our classes here. We need to override some styling. Mapbox.jl popup close button. This is the X icon. Let's make it bigger to rim. And give it white color with opacity. Let's add the opacity 0.54 and the index 2. Transition for the opacity 300 milliseconds, and it is linear. And let's copy this class and add the hover effect. Let's change the opacity to be 0.8. Mapbox.GL pop-up content. We need to remove the padding 0, and it is important to overwrite the old style. Mapbox.GL pop-up tip. This is the tip. We need to change it to be black. Border bottom color RGBA 000 with opacity 0.5, and it is important. And let's copy it for the top. Let's update the swiper class. The index unset, and it is important to overwrite the old one. Swiper pagination. We need to align the text to the right. We don't want it to be in the center. And let's unset the left position and add instead right 8 pixels to push it a little bit to the left. And let's save and check. Now it looks much better. The slider is working, and we can swap manually as well. And from these bullets you can slide as well. When we click, we open the single page with all the information, and if we close, we go back to the map. Let's check another room. Let's open this. Here's the slider. It's working perfectly. And it is swappable. When we click, we can see the main slider, and it is working as well. Now we need to work on opening the single page of the room automatically when we add a new room. Let's go to the room actions. This is the function or action responsible for creating the room. After we received the created room from the server side, we need to dispatch the action update room and pass it the payload. It will be the result we received. This is the result we received after fetching the request. So let's pass it here. And let's save and check. Let's try to add a new room. Let's add one in Florida. Let's drag the marker here. And put it here. Let's go next to the details. Give it a price. And let's add title. Let's copy it from one of these rooms. Let's copy this dummy text. And the description as well. And let's add the images. Let's choose some images. And let's submit. Our token expired and our request rejected from the server, and the system logged us out. Let's re-authenticate again. Let's log in. And let's submit now. Now our room has been added and automatically the single page of the room opened. And we can see the address of the room automatically added here. And the slider, the zoom, and everything is working. Our functionality is working correctly. And on the map we can see as well. If we go to Florida, here's our room and here is our pop-up slider. And when we click here we can see the single page of the room we've already seen. And if we go to the filter, we can see that price filter is working correctly. Everything is working perfectly. So see you guys in our upcoming video.